he would sit down and was like, here's how I pay bills. When we went on ski trips didn't just happen, right? I was like, whoa, we're just going this way out of nowhere. Like, no, my dad had a coin jar. It was like, hey, every time I pay for something, I get changed, I put it in this jar. When it gets full, we take it to the bank, and then we see how much we got, and then if we get enough, then we're gonna go to Colorado and have a fun ski trip. So to me, there's a process here. There's a budget here. It was not an overnight trip at all. It took you.
Welcome back, everybody, back to another exciting show, the About That Water podcast, where we help the sandwich generation build strong financial habits so that they can talk about money, spend money, and even enjoy their money with confidence. I'm your host, Anthony Weaver, and one of the things that I have with me today is one of the great people that I've met multiple times, but this is the first time I actually have him on the show. He has done well over dealing with over $140 million in assets. He is the number one bestseller book. I mean, this is the second book that I got, which is called From Burning to Blueprint, Rebuilding Black Wall Street After a Century of Silence. Now, welcome to the show, Kevin. How have you been today?
I've been doing pretty good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Man, so what is a tariff?
Yeah, so the most basic definition of a tariff is it is an indirect tax on the consumer. So when you go and buy something, you are going to see a higher price. And the reason why that is because the importer, the store that you are buying it from, has to pay a higher price from where they got it from, and they just pass on that higher price to you.
And that's great that they have that. So why do countries actually feel as though like, hey, we're gonna threaten tariffs on you if it all automatically comes down to the customer? Like, what's the point of doing that?
All right, so there are two primary reasons as to why we impose tariffs. So number one is to kind of somewhat of a punishment for one country to another to kind of get them to comply with whatever it is you're trying to get them to do. Obviously, you don't want to go to war, right, and fight with somebody every time you try and get them to do something, because if you will, is one way to kind of look at it. So you are saying, hey, anytime you are selling or sending some stuff over here, we are going to make it more expensive. So our people are going to buy your stuff, and that's going to hurt your companies and your industry. So that's one way. And perhaps, whether it's China or Canada or Mexico, they may change that behavior depending on what that behavior may be. So that's number one. Number two, the other side of it is the U.S. consumer. And what they are trying to do is disincentivize, try and tell you, hey, look, if there are two things and one of them is 20% higher and they're the exact same thing, let's say washing machines, for example, are you going to buy the one that's 20% more expensive? Probably not. Not if they are the exact same thing. You're going to buy the American, because the American made one does not have the tariff. And by doing that, you would think that if the American made thing is the exact same and the exact same quality, it doesn't have a tariff because it's 20% cheaper now, then you would support American jobs, build more American factories, so on and so forth. Now, does that work in real life? It's a different story, but that is the thought, and that is why people do it. Again, it worked way better in the 1800s, not necessarily as well as what people think it will do and what they think it does in today's age.
Yeah, considering that we don't make too many things in the U.S., and a lot of the times we have like private prisons that actually employ the prisoners to do made in the U.S. products. So how can we as consumers be more mindful of what are we actually purchasing and what are we actually supporting when it comes to our everyday spending?
Yeah, I mean, you got to just dig deep and read into it. Sometimes when you dig deeper into who the suppliers are, that will kind of give you some info. Sometimes it'll list it in the packaging and tell you this came from this factory, this came from X, Y, and Z. If you really want to go into deeper detail in they call it the 10K. These are the annual reports that companies have to put out every year. It's what's called annual report. It'll cite the risk. And sometimes it'll say supplier risk because X company in this country gives us chips or glass, or they make 95% of our products. If that country shuts down or we get a tariff, we're not going to be able to make our products. Well, if it tells me that, I'm like, well, your stuff is in this country or in this area, I may or may not support that. So that is that they'll usually list it that way, and those are some of the ways that you can kind of decide how deep you want to go down that rabbit hole and whether or not you want to put your dollars behind it.
Now, will the tariff actually impose like inflation or anything like that to like, because right now we are actually trying to fight inflation, but yet you
Hmm.
put tariffs on things at the same time. How
Yeah,
that work?
yeah. So that is the odd thing as to why the tariffs were baffling. In a wide case, meaning you're just slapping tariffs on everything that's coming from an entire country. So everything from China, everything from Mexico, everything from Canada, and you just name a country and you just put a tariff on all of that stuff, then yes, you would see inflation because we import a lot of those things, and that is not a good thing, right? At the end of the day, because if I'm Walmart, if I'm Target, if I'm Costco, I'm not going to eat that cost. When you think about it, if you're running a business and your costs go up by 10%, you're not going to take that. You're just like, all right, that sucks for me. I'm gonna change the sticker price and I'm just pass it on to the consumer, right? So it's obvious that that's the logical case as to what they're going to do. Usually, and what we saw during the first Trump administration is it was very narrow, and it was that hey, just washing machines we're just going to put tariffs. Just soybeans, for an example, we're just going to put a tariff on. And we did see both washers and dryers, even though dryers didn't have a tariff, both of those actually did raise in price, but that's not the entire economy, right? That's not as bad, but it depends on what you're putting a tariff on and how wide the tariff is going to be and who the tariffs are going to be on. So right now it's on China as of today. We'll see what's going to happen with Canada, Mexico, Europe, and other nations that we import from.
Yeah, I saw an article from the BBC that was just talking about how there's just a blanket tariff on all products.
Yeah.
And right now the UK is kind of like, hey, you're gonna mess up our economy too.
Yeah, and that's that twofold thing, right? So if a tariff is going to mess up the entire economy, and I don't think it's the right thing to do, but if that's the threat, it's a hey, I'm gonna put a tariff that's going to ruin your entire economy. I need you to do whatever it is. It's kind of like a strong arm tactic. So perhaps that's that first point we talked about, is trying to get you to do whatever it is I want you to do without being more aggressive. So we'll see what that aim is going to be. We'll see whether or not they're going to do it. The other thing too is if you do that, there is a thing called retaliation, and they can also slap a tariff on you. And that's not going to be great for us either because we also sell things to other countries, especially for the US for agriculture. We sell a lot of stuff to other countries around the world, especially in China and India and other places. We're very good at growing food. We have way too much food in the US. You can tell for a lot of other
Really?
reasons. So if they start slapping tariffs on us, we can't sell that stuff because they're not going to want to buy it because it's 20 or 30% higher. If we can't sell that stuff, what happens? We lose money, we lose jobs, and that's going to become a problem here. So not only are you going to see inflation, you might start to see unemployment start to rise, and you start to get high inflation and high employment. That is going to equal a recession. Now, the big thing here is if, right? If and how long and how drastic these things are, that's going to play a big factor into this.
So, what are your thoughts on universal basic income?
It was it's just depressing.
I had to ask. I had to ask.
Yeah. So I actually did a panel on this for FinCon in 2017 or 2018, I think. And I'm for it. I think in certain instances it does make sense. We've had now again my research is dated, so I'll have to go back and see. But there were many instances, I think, in like certain cities across the country where they actually did test it out, whether it was $1,000 a month or whatever it was. It was successful. A lot of the mistakes or the threats that people thought was going to happen actually didn't happen. People were fine. And I think there's a good case for it. No, I don't think UBI, Universal Basic Income, is going to cause mass inflation. It really depends on how it is implemented and then what else happens around it. There is somebody out there yelling at me right now. Could you say that the pandemic was a case for that? where we were giving people stimulus checks, and people had a bunch of, you were sitting at home, you got a check for just being there, which it was a challenge. We earned that, right? But because of that, that caused inflation. My argument would be, yes, you could say that it caused inflation, but the other part was we couldn't go anywhere and do anything. Therefore, that is why we were all bidding up for random stuff like meme coins and all that kind of stuff. If we could just travel and go out to restaurants and do the stuff we would normally do, I don't think we would have saw inflation in the same way.
I can see that, yeah, because right now, like, actually, a lot of people probably use that money even to start off their investments for the first time.
Yeah, and there were some amazing impacts from doing that as well.
I wonder. I mean, I'm just trying to think philosophically here. It's like, I think a lot of the reasons why we don't have it is because they was like, oh, this other demographic of people want to get it too. Like,
yes.
Why can't we just keep it for ourselves? You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, and this goes into perhaps a
different tangent, right?
Yeah, we can go there.
All right, I'll go for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are two things. One is we don't necessarily like to help other people in America anymore. I don't know if we ever did, but we definitely do not like to help other people, especially Black and brown folk in America. If we see that it helps other people, then we are not going to like that particular benefit. It has always been that way. Free lunch programs, oh, it's helping 40% people that's Black. Oh, let's cut it. Like that is a wild thing, but it happens. Like the Affordable Care Act, free healthcare, affordable healthcare. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's like, oh, y'all get free healthcare? No, we don't want that. It's just like, damn, that's wild. You know, it's helping people, and y'all don't want that. Student loan forgiveness, right? I know people are saying it's expensive and all that kind of stuff, but when you really think about it, it's like, hey, can we make college more affordable? No, we don't want to do that. It's just like, why? You know, it's just there was a program that was blocked by the new Trump administration by just trying to lower the interest rate on student loans. They were trying, oh, it's a new payment plan. It was new payment. They were trying to pay their loans. Yeah. All the plan was doing, it wasn't giving nobody a handout. It wasn't trying to, forgive any debt. If that was the concern, what I don't want to pay for that for my tax dollars, whatever, right? It's just a new payment plan to help me to pay my debt off faster. And that's it. And I am paying it all. It's like, no, we don't want to do that. And it's just like, why not? When did we get to a point where we just not trying to help nobody at all, right? So that is a big part of it. The other part is there is a psychological thing that is really kind of built into the fabric of the United States. People call it like the Protestant work ethic, where we feel like you got to get it out the mud, and it is a bootstrap mentality, which has actually never been the case, where people feel like a handout is un-American, and that's not how things are built. When in reality, there's a long paper trail of, I would say, more than 90% of the wealth that is built in the United States is through some government program. The wealthiest man in the United States right now, Elon Musk, would not exist today had it not been through government programs for SpaceX to exist, through government grants and programs for Tesla to exist. Those carbon credits were through a government program today. Like, those things don't exist without government programs. The entire real estate market, there was a point, right, where like special tax benefits for owning real estate. You used to get special write-offs for the interest for owning a home. Like, that is a government benefit to help you to build wealth. It's not just I did it on my own, but that is the American ethos that we feel like that has to happen. And anything that goes counter to that, or at least obvious counter to that, makes it feel like it is some moral sin against that individual.
Yeah,
long answer. Sorry.
No, you're good, because it gets you to think of like, why do we purchase the things that we purchase? And people who are these business gurus who are out there be like, oh yeah, just kind of like you said, do it with your bootstraps or whatever. Oh, I did this on my own. But would you be doing it if you get in? Like, why would you even get into real estate if you wasn't getting these tax benefits? Why would you get into or try to pay off your student loans if there wasn't any tax benefits? Because I think they get up to like $2,500 per year for single, and I think if you're married, I think they still keep it at $2,500. But it's like you're getting all these tax implications because that's what they're trying to push out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it is all economics. Is the study of economics is all about incentives. People do what they are incentivized to do, and the government is supposed to. In the perfect world, they incentivize people to do the right thing, right? But even look at what Elon Musk is doing now. Yeah, right. But he's getting a $400 billion contract for armored Teslas from the Department of Defense. Now, you think he just sitting next to the president for no reason? It's like that. Is
Right.
Is that not government welfare? Like, if Elon gets a $400 billion check for his business, it's fine, right? But if, Lord forbid, that if I was ever on government assistance for food stamps, now I'm a welfare king and my family's terrible, right? You see, like, the difference. Or if I were to ask for student loan forgiveness for $30,000, I'm a terrible person. I need to get out the mud, but he can get 400 billion. It's just like, well, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
It's the same government, and it's my tax. It's still my tax dollars in this case, and that's something that's just like, I still pay taxes, so just like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I try to look at it from also, it's like, hey, this person. Some people can look at it this way. I'm gonna try to play the devil's advocate here. They will say, well, he is at least actually bringing in jobs. He's providing jobs for other people to get more money. Okay. But you as an individual, just because you're trying to get out of your situation, not realizing the implications of you getting out of that situation that you're in, you can actually help other people to get paid for the jobs that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, make it make sense.
Yes. I mean, I would also argue, I mean, he's also cut a lot of jobs too. So,
yeah. Well, as of today, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, even a year or two ago, you mean the guy who cut 80% of the jobs at Twitter? The guy who laid off was however many people that worked in the nuclear office, and then realized, like, oh, wait a minute, we need those people.
So, you saw that too?
Yeah. So it again, side note rant, but it's that ethos of, well, I want to help certain people, but then when they do it, it's not help. But when I do it, it is. There are a lot of those instances. But on my reading list for this year is a book called "When Welfare Was White." So I haven't read it yet, so I can't endorse it yet. But the title caught me, and the reason why
I might have to watch that.
Yeah, and the reason why is because there have been tons and tons of programs that were like the GI Bill, which is that's one of them. A government program that was almost exclusively for white people that set up one of the greatest generations, the boomer generation right now. It gave them loans for housing, helped them to go to school, made it extremely affordable. But black veterans who did the exact same thing, went over, fought for World War II, almost never got those grants. We're talking less than 10% of black vets were approved for those. That generational wealth from the homes and the free college, for the most part, that was passed on, and because they didn't have student loans, they could help save for their kids and so on and so forth. We didn't get that. And now, right, when we are asking for student loans, all this kind of stuff, it feels like a handout to us when, you're looking at, they had the same thing, right? The Homestead Act, where land was given primarily to white people. I think it was 1852. You'll have to correct in the notes for that exact year, but it is in the book from Burning the Blueprint. That was also a major land giveaway primarily to white folk. That land still exists. Those people used it for farming. Those people sold that land and got cash for it. Black people didn't get that. And that's the wealth I'm talking about, where it was a government funded program given to a specific population. That wealth gap, it didn't happen from Gucci belts and people being lazy. Right? People always go to the Gucci belts and the Jordans. I'm like, I don't know if a 200 pairs of J's or a $200 pair of J's that was started in 1984 really would have did 200 years of damage. I don't know.
Well, it gets you to think of the term financial literacy, or financial generational wealth. And I listened to that and I had to think about long and hard about it, because when it comes to generational wealth, air quotes here, to me, it's almost like cleaning your house. if you want to use that, I'm trying to use that as an analogy. Generational wealth is like bringing up to cleaning your house. Okay, well, you want to clean home. How? And that's where the subtopics start to come in. And that's where, you and I kind of thrive in. Is like, yes, you can get to that, but what are the small things that you're doing day to day to kind of get to that level? And I know we talked about tariffs, but what are one of the things that you've seen that has been really helpful as a subset of financial generational wealth that you seem to resonate the most with?
I would say probably one that I don't think enough people talk about. It's really the communication piece. Uh, Far too often we talk about the money part of generational wealth for obvious reasons. The wealth is in the name, right? It's right there in the name. So
Yes.
obviously you got to talk about it. And as I'm thinking about it, it's actually two parts. So the first one is the communication piece, because you do have to talk about that transfer of I am building X, Y, and Z for you. And it's going to be transferred. I've got this in your name, this in your sister's name, so on and so forth. And the reason why that is so important, whether it is a lot of money or a little, is because one, it shows that you had intention and that I didn't just leave this earth and just throw stuff out there. And when you pass it on, it tells your kids like, hey, this was the purpose of this. And it gives them direction as well. Because I've seen as a former financial advisor, a lot of times family member passes, they all fight over stuff and nobody knows where anything is supposed to go because there was no communication. So that's a big part of it. And then that like, hey, I am saving this. I am building this thing. Here is how I did it. That's a big part too. What I see, especially for millennials and maybe Gen Z coming up now, is that for our parents, though things were way cheaper. $5 houses don't exist anymore. But when we grew up, and this is just the nature of being a kid, right? When you grow up, your parents look as if they have everything together. And it's just like, yeah, when I come of age and just notice things, y'all had a car, y'all had a house, and everything seemed fine. Parents should really talk about, not that you got to show them all of the struggles of life, right? But you should say, hey, when they're in their 20s, like, hey, actually, this is what I was doing when I was your age. I was hustling and doing in two jobs, if that were the case. Or this is how I built all of these things, to show them that it wasn't just all magic and unicorns. Because showing your kids the process by which you acquired those things is important. You need to show them the blueprint to do that so that they can do that. So that's communication. So that was number one. We talked about, we all know the wealth piece. And the second piece is time. Far too often, I think we assume that generational wealth is going to be built by me and we done. That's not always the case. I know it's unfortunate at times, but it may take a generation to build generational wealth. And that's okay. You might be that first domino that just passes the baton, and you might not see it through the end, but you might be the first most important person to start it. I think that's important too. So for me, I'm on track to hit that $1 million mark.
Let's go.
Yeah, probably before. We'll see how the market goes, right? but if all things hold up, I should hit there before 40, definitely before 45. We'll see. However, even if I weren't, I would still set my kids up to get there, right? So even if I'm paying off my student loans and doing all that stuff, I still would have set my kids up to hit that mark by 35, 40, right? By putting away $50 a month, $100 a month, or whatever, right? You see what I mean? Like even if I didn't, I might not get there, but I'm gonna make sure somebody else is, and that's a part of it too. Right. So you may not always get there, but again, through that communication, through that intention, and say, hey, I may not hit $1 million, but hey, I got 400,000 or 500,000. That's why I'm leaving y'all. And y'all get to start here. Y'all get to start 500,000 further than what the previous generation did. And that is how it starts. Leave them further than what the previous generation did.
And that goes back to I guess you could say the old saying, is that you kind of act like the people that you hang around with the most. And if your kids are hanging around with you a lot and you actually teaching them these different values, these different money values, they're going to more than likely either A, see what you're doing and say like, oh man, I really like what they were doing, let's mimic that. Or B, resent all of it because I hated having just peanut butter and jelly sandwich with rice and beans every day
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to just eat steak and, cereal just because I can be, and also because I didn't have it when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are the things that you actually felt that you feel that you're doing right now for your children that's been
Yeah. So
helpful?
Yeah, so my kids are a little younger. So my son will be 7 in March, and my daughter is 4 now. But what I do is, so we've ordered some finance flashcards. My son got his first wallet for his birthday last year,
Hey, congrats.
and thank you. And what I do is I have him to make very small financial decisions at this point in time. When I am, and this is something my dad kind of did for me, but like you said, like I have him when I do certain YouTube videos, if he's home and not at school, depending on what time I'm recording, but I'll have him come and sit in the room and watch me talk about money. Right. If I'm editing or something and he's trying to read or I'm not trying to distract him, but if he's reading or doing his homework or something, I'll be like, hey, let me just sit here and edit a video because I'm showing him the process, but also he is hearing about index funds. He's hearing about the stock market. He's hearing about retirement. And that stuff slowly over time does kind of seep in to you. When I go to a grocery store, I'll say, hey, pull out your wallet. I'll give him the money instead of making him pay for it, right? But
Right.
I'll give him the money, put it in his wallet, and he'll go and pay for something so he can understand how money works, how to talk to people, right, and ask for things. Since it was the digital world, you still got to deal with people, and have those conversations, and that's how it starts. And as he gets older, we'll start to read money books and have deeper conversations, but really getting them into the practice of dealing with money, understanding the vocabulary. What my dad did, he would sit down, was like, here's how I pay bills. When we went on ski trips didn't just happen, right? I was like, whoa, we're just going this way out of nowhere. Like, no. My dad had a coin jar. It was like, hey, every time I pay for something, I get changed, I put it in this jar. When it gets full, we take it to the bank and then we see how much we got. And then if we get enough, then we're going to go to Colorado and have a fun ski trip. So to me, I'm like, there's a process here. There's a budget here. It was not an overnight trip at all. It took years.
Right.
So, and I'm like slowly sitting here like, this is not like instant gratification, right? So I got to slowly see it. And that is what kind of got my realization around how money actually works and something that we're doing with it.
Man, I love that story and that you're actually bringing them into that. Has this, and you also talked about your relationship with your parents. So that is amazing that, you're starting everybody off young because it's, at the age of 8 is when everybody kind of remember their money story.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said you remember yours from when you were 6, which is rare from a lot of people. I don't recall what I was doing at 6.
I was a strange child.
So we want to dive into, which is the third segment here, which is the futures. So like what areas of focus that you feel that you had to make the most improvement on in your life?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh man. Just in general, I think so. At 35, I am by no means a master at anything. So let me say that. But I do feel that I've gotten to a point where I now feel like I'm competent at most things that I'm trying to do in my life. I will say improvement wise, I'm trying to learn more instruments and try to just find ways to de-stress and find avenues to we work hard, we do content, you do work, dealing with there's a lot going on, and music, trying to learn music has kind of been my place. So trying to be better at that, finding those avenues and really taking the time to dive into it and really invest in it is the thing I'm trying to improve in.
Which instrument are you looking into?
Right now it's bass guitar.
Oh, okay. That is pretty cool. Left hand, right hand?
Right hand.
Okay. All right. Well, we might talk offline because
All right.
I have 2 6-string guitars, and I was going to get back into it, and I was like, I have them. I had them for years, but just Don't ask me to play a song. But
Yeah, it's something kind of going back to, wealth, and sometimes as you get older, you buy the things that you wish you would have had. So for me, for whatever reason, I just wish I had a piano when I was a kid, and wish I just grew up in a house that just was full of music, and just wish that I just started off as a child knowing that. So maybe 3 years ago, we got a keyboard. 3 years ago, I got a keyboard. 2 years ago, I taught myself how to play trumpet. I wasn't good at it. I could play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
okay.
I could do that.
Hey, got some.
My biggest accomplishment is when my daughter at this point was 2, and I played it, and she was like, "Oh, I know that song." I was like, "There we go. I've won."
Right.
So I did that, and then now I'm on bass, and just picking up different things, figuring out what I like, and then just finding a space to just vent and recharge, really.
And that's one of the things that we don't talk about enough as we become adults is what is really the balance of the things that we want to do versus things that we have to do. And I like that for you, that you're actually taking time out to do that. But yeah, maybe we might have to bring you back on to talk about like the different strategies that you use and to kind of figure it out. Are you taking like an hour a day? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. So in this space, like in personal finance, like this will be 15 years in September that I've been doing this, right? Whether it's been blogging or video or whatever, right? Which is just thinking about, it's like, bro, I have not done anything other than be black for that long. I ain't done nothing for that long. Right. And I've never been burned out. I've never taken a break. I've never quit, right? And not everybody can do that. And that's, people go through things, right? But one way that I've been able to do that is because I've always had that recharge thing. And for me right now, it's music. Other times it's, I still work out, but it's working out. It's learning a new skill. So that's what keeps me going, where I never feel like, oh, this is too much. Oh, I'm taxed. Oh, I need to take a break. It's because, like, I gotta do what I gotta do, and I have fun doing this, and then I'm off. I'm gonna go, I don't know, learn archery or something crazy, and go watch the Hunger Games. Who knows? And then come back and then do what I do. And that's been the thing that's been keeping me going.
Awesome. So Kevin, before we dive into the final 4 questions, is there anything that you want to leave the audience before we get into it?
Yes, I have one request for the audience. It's going to be a little random because we haven't necessarily talked about it. All right, so there is a proposal for the FDIC. All right, the FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. When you go into a bank, it's right there in the bottom left-hand corner of the window in most cases. This is the entity that ensures that you get your money if the bank fails. If y'all remember correctly, I know a lot happened in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. And the reason why that's not, do you remember that when that happened?
I remember. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, but it's not like do you remember the day that it happened?
Ooh, no, I don't remember the day exactly.
The reason why it's not like March 10th, 2023, and why it's like not like a thing that's circled on your calendar. Like, we all remember where you were when the pandemic hit, because that was a big thing. The reason why we don't remember why that bank, or remember exactly where you were when that bank collapsed, is because the FDIC exists. It worked. People got their money. It was a big deal when it happened, but it's like, okay, you got insurance, right? Okay, cool. You got your money. Nobody cares, right? There is a current proposal to make some major changes at the FDIC. That is not a good thing. That's not a good thing for anybody. So right now on my website, I have a letter posted where you can copy, paste, send it to the FDIC, as well as send it to your local representative. I got instructions on how to do it. You can do it in less than 10 minutes. It's at buildingbread.com/FDIC. So send it so we can keep our money and leave it alone. Okay, so that's my one call to action for y'all. Wrote it out. I talked to people in Washington and local government officials to make sure we send it to the right people. But all you gotta do is email it, send it to your people, make as much noise as possible, because again, it does affect us all. I want to keep my money at a normal bank. I know a whole bunch of other stuff is happening everywhere else. That's wild. But I'm gonna control what I can control. I'm gonna do my part, right, and help us keep our money safe. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just leave it alone. The FDIC is fine. Wouldn't bother nobody. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, you're so right about that.
Yeah, that's my speech.
All right, ready for final four?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, number one, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth means choices and options. Those words are the same thing, but wealth does mean like I get choices. I get to decide. When I don't have money or I have less wealth, I don't really get to choose, how I get to point A to point B. Sometimes it's just Greyhound, and that's it. I've been there, right? But with more options, I can say Greyhound, first class, driving, rental, whatever, right? So with the more money I have, the more wealth I have, the more choices I have.
Like it. Number two, what was your worst money mistake?
Ooh, my worst money mistake? I would say there was a point I did Teach for America, a teaching program, which they, at the end of the program, they did pay you, you could only use it for grad school or to pay down your student loans. And during that 2 years, they like froze your student loans, so you did not have to pay. Looking back, I probably should have paid those loans just to get things down and get out of pay that debt off 2 years faster. I don't know the exact year, but maybe I would have paid it off in 2016, which would have freed up even more money. So that's probably the biggest mistake that I've made.
Yeah, it was a whole another episode.
So we got what, two in the chamber now?
Right. Number three. Is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
Ooh. Changed my journey or inspired my journey or changed my perspective? Yep. There have been a few that have changed my perspective, but the one that started it all was The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. Mm-hmm. I was I was graduating senior going into college, so a freshman, and I was a janitor at the library. And I was, cleaning floors and stuff at the library closed. And I saw it, in the librarian's desk. I'm like, billionaire, automatic. I'm just going to just take this and walk off. Did I perhaps borrow? Because it's library, so I did. I literally did borrow that book.
Yeah.
Did I did I scan the book? No. Did I return the book? I honestly do not remember. I don't know what Tulsa County Library is going to do about it. Anyway, so that is, but that's the book that started it all. So I was again, automatic. I was like, the words automatic and millionaire just lit me up at that time. So that's why I really started getting very deep into it to figure out, because I was like, if it can be automatic, I can sit back and just be rich.
Yeah.
And you can. It wasn't like I thought it was, at 18, but it does work. I'm on that track, right? So it was definitely worth it. But that is what started the entire thing.
Awesome. Number four, what is your favorite dish to make?
My favorite dish to make?
Yeah.
Depending on how much time I got. You have to time box me in.
I mean, yeah. If you got unlimited time, you can make whatever dish.
If I ain't got no time, I'm smoking a brisket. That's what I'm doing. I'm smoking some ribs as we speak. Oh. I am. But okay. But yeah. Yeah, if I have unlimited time, I'm definitely smoking a brisket. It's going to take me 16 to 18 hours, depending on how big it is. And I it's one of those things one of those ways that I recharge, right? I just learned the art of barbecue over the last 2 years. But, I'll season it, trim it, do that whole thing, put it on smoker overnight. And then, that next afternoon, it's going to be exactly where we need it to be.
It's always that delayed gratification that's constantly coming up in your story. This is great. So this is going to be the last question of the show, which is, where could people find out more about you?
Yes, you can find more about me at Building Bread on all social media platforms. You can find me on YouTube at Building Bread, where I drop 3 brand new videos every single week. And then obviously you can get that letter at buildingbread.com/FDIC.
Love that. Thank you, sir. So if you made it this far and you was like, man, I really have all these things going on in my life and my finances aren't looking right, it's okay. Have that delayed gratification. You're doing the right thing. Think of all the things that you have right now in your household or all the things that you have accomplished so far in life. It's okay. You're going to get there. You just got to stay focused. Don't lose sight. You got this. And as always, I wish you all the best. We out. Peace.